everyone. Welcome back to another installment of me trying to figure out what to say, even though I have notes right in front of me. But I just want to check in with everyone and see how everyone's doing so far. I really hate it, but it's like lately I still keep feeling like shaky. I feel a lot more grounded, but God, just just watching the what is it called, the Trump trials and everything. It just like what was I about to say about Donald Trump and like the trials that are going on right now? It's just upsetting that it took so long to get to this point. I don't mean to get all political and all that, but I still need to work on being less nervous when it comes on here. Like, I don't know why. Like, I get more nervous when I go on live stream than I ever do before I perform. Because usually when I perform, it's like, okay, I kind of have like somewhat of a script in my mind, and I'm able to just not practice, just like play out the songs and the dances that I've already rehearsed. But as far as with this, right, even if I have bullet points or even if I have a script, like I can literally have things written for me, and I still feel like, oh no, I don't think I can recite it. I'm just not the type of person to like read things. Like, I'm not the best at reading things out loud or just reading off of scripts, and I go off of what I just kind of feel at the moment. So, but yeah, I guess without further ado, since there's only like a few people in here, I just want to say thank you for coming on here and just checking in, even though there's not many people here. I think hopefully as I continue making like live streams and as I gain traction, there'll be more viewers and commenters and whatnot. I actually have like some ideas as far as topics go. I don't want to limit myself to just spirituality. I do want to have like more like other commentary talking points. So if you guys have also have any ideas of things that like we can talk about, feel free to also leave your suggestions in the comments. So yeah, without further ado, I guess it's fear of the unknown, since live streams tend to be less rehearsed. Yeah, like this is also that fear of the unknown. I just feel like that's a theme that's been playing out today as far as like the collective energy goes, because I was actually doing a tarot reading for a client last night, right? And for some reason, like, this has never happened to me when I'm doing like tarot readings. Usually it's easy. Like, I do make mistakes here and there because, you know, your intuition is not always like clear cut and direct, but this is the first time where I actually confused other people's energy with my client, right? And I said some things that, like, you know, they were like I wouldn't say accurate towards him, but more like accurate towards the other side and how they felt, right? And I said, whoa, your energy is like I didn't even realize that their energy was like intertwined and intermingled with the other group of people that my client was like working with when I was talking about it, because they're like, hey, I'd like some clarification on what you meant by XYZ, because I don't think this is it. And I'm like, really? Because I was going off of what I was intuitively feeling. So then when I was doing a clarification reading for them, and I didn't charge them for this because I felt bad that I felt like it was inaccurate, but when I was doing a clarification reading for them, I'm like, there's some external forces that are influencing your energy. And I guess speaking about external influences influencing your energy, this would be like the perfect topic to go off of, as far as like how to ward yourself from psychic attacks and like cleansing your aura and just protecting yourself in general, right? So I guess, without further ado, let's just hop right into it. The first thing that I would want to address is that always go to God first. What do I mean by God? I think a lot of people, mostly religious people, equate God as in, their religious figure that they believe in, whether it would be Jesus Christ if they're Catholic or whatnot. I'm not familiar with other religions, to be honest, because I've only been raised as a Catholic, right? So most people think like God is this higher being which is outside of us, which is true, but also not true at the same time, right? It's both. What I mean by that is like, yes, there are higher powers that are outside of us, but ultimately, because I said before in my other live stream that the universe starts and ends with you are also God in and of itself. And I don't mean you are God as in like, okay, let's have this fucking power trip and I'm gonna exert my power and control over other people. No. You have more control, self-control toward yourself and your reality. You have more power to shape your reality than you think you do. And I think that's what I mean by consulting with God first, right? Other people don't have to resort to calling it God. You could also call it like source, spirit, the universe, what have you, your higher self. There's many ways that you can, I guess, describe what God is. And I do recall back when I was Catholic, I never really, like, even when I was in church, I never really believed in any of that stuff. Most of the time I'd just be in my own world, and I really felt like, well, God has abandoned me a long time ago because I've endured a lot of trauma and all that stuff. But then I come to realize that, like, Jesus Christ consciousness is within yourself, right? So the most that you can do is have faith in yourself and trust yourself. Like, the only one who has the answers to your own life is you. The only one who knows you more is you, right? So first step, when it comes to warding off psychic attacks and protecting your aura, is consult with yourself first. I think a lot of people don't really know themselves as much as they know themselves, and other people, outsiders, can be an observer and determine, like, just by looking at another person, how the other person is or how they feel. But at the end of the day, no one else can judge you unless, like, no one else can make a judgment about you except for you, because only you define yourself, right? This also goes to another thing where you can ask the universe for a sign if you're confused about, like, what direction that you're heading in, if you don't trust your intuition as well. Some people do have, like, weak intuition, some have intuition, right? And intuition is also a very tricky thing, because usually we're all caught up of, like, okay, well, logically, if I go by ... then it should be fine, right? But there are things outside of us that just exceed logic, right? And I think they only exceed they exceed logic, because the whole purpose of us as a species is to grow and to expand, right? And if we had all the knowledge of the universe, then there would be no point in us, I guess, like, if we knew all the answers, then we wouldn't be in this physical plane, would we? Like, we would be in another dimension, sort of say. So yeah, always ask the universe for a sign. These signs can come in randomly. They can come in with the music lyrics that you're listening to at the moment, right? They could also be just, like, I guess, pictures that you see or words that you read, or sometimes you're divinely guided to just different situations. The most that you could really do is just pay attention and be alert and listen to what's going on. not only around you, but most likely what you're feeling within, right? Another thing is that people confuse spirituality with metaphysics, right? Metaphysics is like that weird trippy shit as if you're going on LSD, you know, that psychedelic shit that you're going on, like, what the heck is going on? Da, da, da. Spirituality is like, it's everything and nothing at the same time, right? So I think people kind of confuse the two. Let's say for example, right? There's I can't help but laugh at this. Oh my god. Have you ever come across a fake woke person? Like, you'll know if they're fake woke, right? It's like they say that they're woke, but they're really not. But there was this instance where I came across this fake woke person, right? And I intuitively felt like they were, like, spiritually blocked. And this is not to say that I don't have my own spiritual blocks either. Like, we all have our own spiritual blocks, right? But because I've done a lot of work on myself, the more work that you do on yourself, the more easier it is to understand other people, right? So anyway, I came across this fake woke person, and they were like pretending to meditate, and like as if like they were kind of just like showing off or something like that. It was that whole entire spiritual bypassing thing, right? And spiritual bypassing was also another topic that I brought up last stream, right? So they're talking about like, oh wow, I'm on a spiritual journey, whoa, and all that. I'm like, okay, you're talking about metaphysical energy. You're not talking about actual spirituality, all right? Because I think, all right, this is just my belief, but I think actual spirituality is just like blank face. You have no expression. It's not that you have no expression, right? It's just like you're looking. That's really it. Like, you're just looking. You're not judging it. You're not like, I wouldn't say that there's any like emotion behind it, because there isn't. Like, there's no emotion, and there's also every single emotion all encompassing into one, right? So having those weird psychedelic trips, yeah, you could say that you've gone on a spiritual journey, but I still believe that's more so metaphysics, and I think that's people mistaking the two. So, because spirituality is really all about being a state of being. Like, you don't have to try to be spiritual. I think that's what I meant to say. I think people kind of try too hard to be like, yeah, I'm a spiritual miracle lyrical individual, and I'm like, you don't have to try too hard. You just have to like just be, you know? So yeah. And then finally, as far as consulting your intuition goes, or more so consulting with yourself, if you don't have the answers of like figuring out how to move forward, if it smells like shit, if it looks like shit, chances are it's definitely shit. What do I mean by that? So there's gonna be people that are gonna come into your bubble and they're gonna test you, multiple times, right? I also saw this like Teal Swan video where she said, well, some people think that the universe is testing them, right? But it's not really that. It's just trying to recalibrate and align you into what you truly desire deep down, right? And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way of putting it. But, and also I'm paraphrasing. This is not an exact quote, but this is just based off of what I remember, right? But sometimes, you know, like people can externally seem as if like, yeah, I'm good, I got it all together. But again, this all goes back to what I was saying, when there are people who spiritually bypass and they just are fake woke, right? If you feel like something is off, most likely it's off. And that's why I say, if it smells like shit, looks like shit, it's definitely shit. All right. So, yeah, and that also comes with just knowing yourself as well. Like, knowing yourself before knowing other people is very important, because the more that you're in tune with yourself, and the more that you're self-aware about your own human nature, it is a lot easier for you to pinpoint how other people are. Once you like continually work on yourself and you heal yourself, you're able to get a better understanding of how other people operate. And you can do research, like you can look into psychology and like other like, you know, other spiritual gurus and whatnot for the answers, right? But sometimes there's just going to be instances where other people can't tell you what you need to know. Sometimes you just have to consult with yourself and be creative and figure out methods, your own methods and your own answers, you know? So, yeah. The second step, as far as warding off psychic attacks and protecting your aura, is to know your demons, right? There's like this phrase, correct me if I'm misquoting it, but I kind of wrote it down here. Only you can give permission to the devil. Don't let them lure you in. What I mean by that is like the devil could be on your doorstep, right? And only you can give them access to it, right? If the devil's on your doorstep, just be like, "Hey Jesus, can you go get the door?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll go check it out for you." I'm gonna tell you that I made the mistake multiple times, too many times, I can't count, of letting the devil into my energy field. What do I mean by that, right? So whenever I get into states of depression or anxiety or what have you, like anything that is fear-based, and I start giving into that, I'm like, you know what? Just end me right away. Just please come in, all right, and just end me. There were actual, oh my god, I really hated feeling like this during the pandemic because it was really scary, like, and I really felt like I was losing my mind because I saw like other demonic entities just kind of like swarming around my house. I didn't even I don't consciously even remember letting them in, right? Because as you awaken and as you ascend, you really start seeing things that aren't really physically there, so to say, right? So I was one time just trying to go to sleep and I was just trying to comfort myself, right? And I just saw like all of these demonic entities just trying to come into my energy field, and they would purposely attack me, you know? So I would be holding a knife while I'm in my bed, right? And I was like really scared. I'm like shaking and I'm just like telling them to go away, like to fuck off. Like the most that you can do, and this comes in like layers. Like the more that you practice this, the more easier it is to kind of shoo them away and just, you know, some people use sage to clear it out, other people use crystals, whatever tools that you feel is necessary for you at the moment to kind of like ward them off. Just don't mess with low vibrational beings. Just don't, because then they start taking over your vessel and they start doing things that you yourself wouldn't really necessarily do, right? But anyway, they would come in, right? And at that point, I was like at my lowest point, and I'm just like, you know what? Just please end me, all right? I just want my suffering to end, right? But the conflict with that is like, you're telling the devil that you want your suffering to end. They're just going to prolong the suffering, you know? So, and the only way that you're able to, I wouldn't even say eliminate suffering, because you can't really eliminate suffering, but the only way that you're able to, I guess, deal with the pain is to just confront it face on, right? And just look at fear straight in the eye, tell it to fuck off, right? Even if it feels, I guess, quote unquote, painful at the moment, if the more that you feed into that wound, the wound is just going to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Does that make any sense, right? Just don't let fear get the best of you, all right? Yeah. There's also another thing that I typed here where I was talking to my friend, and he was telling me that, like, his mother was, was a therapist, right? And apparently you can also feel the moods of like other people, right? Like you can just intuitively feel the other moods of people. I have to go look this up, but apparently, like, let's see. I'm gonna copy and paste this study that I found. Where apparently ionic frequencies, like, they influence like other people, right? Like other people like have like these frequencies to them, right? And the more that you're in proximity with those people, and these people can be literally anyone, like they could be under your nose, they could be your family, your, like, what you call your family, what you call your friends, they could be your coworkers, just anyone, right? Other people's moods can also affect you in one way. I think it says, I still have to reread all of this because this is like one of the few. Is this the correct article? No, I don't think. No. That's the wrong one. I'm sorry. My mistake. Let me see if I can find the right one. It's supposed to be ionic currents and mood or something like that. Okay, this is the right article. I apologize, right? And also, I don't read much. What's the word? I don't read much of like independent like studies like this because it's a lot for me to like understand. I do take bits and pieces of like information and try to understand it as much as possible. I still feel like this is something that is currently being like researched on. So again, don't quote me. And if you need to correct me, please let me know, because I'm not going to act as if I know it all, because I don't. I really don't. But yeah, basically what my friend was saying is that other people's moods, or would they say mood currents? What did he say? I'm trying to read this. Mood contagion. I still have to do more research on that. But yeah, apparently it's called something mood contagion, as in like other people's like mood will start affecting you, right? And normally, like, naturally that just makes sense because what is that? There are instances, let's say for example, right? My ex-friend, whenever I was, let's say that I was doing a dance cover, right? And my ex-friend was behind the camera. This person just had like a resting bitch face, right? And I understand people who just have a resting bitch face. That's totally fine, right? But I felt like there was something more to... Let me lower the volume on my microphone. I apologize. I felt like there was something more behind their face, right? And I was like wondering, like, hey, can you just like perk up the mood while I'm like dancing so I don't feel as if I'm like, you know, forcing myself to be happy? Because every time I'm on stage, and if people in the audience just don't look as if they're like pleased or entertained, that kind of rubs off on me, you know? So, and then I keep thinking like, okay, maybe I'm just thinking too much about it. Maybe it's just like all in my head, right? But then again, like, there's something about just feeling someone else's mood, feeling other people's moods, and then having their moods like kind of rub off on you, you know? So I would try to encourage them and just be like, I don't need you to, you know, I don't need you to like give me like excessive validation or anything, because that's not really necessarily a thing that I really truly need in a performance, even though like it would be nice to have like some validation while I'm performing, like just give me your energy, right? But it was really hard for them to perk up, I don't know, smile, you know? So yeah, that's something to pay attention to, right? As far as understanding or knowing your demons, right? Hello, welcome. Another thing is like people that I also used to be friends with, right? It's like there are times where I felt like I was like in like fake friendships, right? And I felt like I was like forced. I was like kind of like forcing myself to have a friendship that just didn't really work out. Like, it just felt like really draining. You know how like there are people that are just energetic vampires, right? And you just logically you don't know. It's like you're like thinking, oh, okay, well, this is fine, right? Like I'm just having a normal conversation with them. But then you start thinking back and you start reflecting and you're like, this doesn't feel right to me. And even if you like look deep into their eyes, like there's something about their eyes that are kind of like fish-like, or like, is there anything behind that? Like, you just start to wonder like what's going on. What's going on, right? So again, that's another way to distinguish like knowing your demons, right? I guess this answered my question. This answers my I wonder what Julie is doing question. Yeah. Do you mean, okay, do you mean you're asking that question to me when it's like like maybe, I don't know, sometimes there are times where I watch back my live streams and then I look at my eyes and I'm like, whoa, there's like a deadness or like a darkness in my eyes that I don't like, right? Because normally I'm the type of person where I just naturally like perk up at things. Like it could be anything at all, right? I could just perk up at like the sight of just something stupid, right? Because I like making jokes out of things and I try my best to at least lighten the mood. But when I'm like really like in a dark mood, like I feel as if like I can see that expression just illuminate on my face, and I look at the mirror, like I stare at myself in the mirror for a long time. I'm like, what is going on with me? As if there's another me behind me, right? That's like controlling me, sort of say. So, and it's so freaky. It's so freaky whenever those moods ever happen, right? So, yeah. The next step, as far as warding off psychic attacks, and protecting your aura, is to discern, disengage, and detach. The 3 Ds. Not like, what is that thing that you call in idol culture DD, as in like dare demo, right? I don't, you know what I mean? Those otas would not have like an oshi, like they would not have a bias. They'll be like, yeah, I just like anyone. Like, no, you add a triple D, the triple D. Yeah. I always appreciate that you're so animated and that it's easy to tell what you're feeling. I think that's the most important thing that people should at least try to do, right? I want to at least try to be as honest as possible, and I want people to like really see that on my face, that it's like, yes, I'm engaged. Yes, I understand where you're coming from. Yes, I am feeling XYZ, right? So when you look around, right, and people just feel less animated, it's so hard for you to decipher how they're feeling, right? And I guess the conclusion that I'm drawing with people not being so concrete with expressing themselves and how they feel, right, is because maybe they themselves, they don't even know how they feel. Like they're not that tuned in with themselves, right? And I just feel like other spirits or other entities are inhabiting their vessel and kind of just just kind of dangling them like a puppet. Dare demo daisuki. Yeah, that's the term. Thank you very much. So, yeah, anyway, going back to my next point, discern, disengage, and detach. Take what you need, leave what you don't. I think a lot of us are conditioned to think that, okay, we're not good enough, this is not good enough, this situation is never going to amount up to what I want in my mind, right? Because we like having expectations, but when things don't align with our expectations, we feel really disappointed with ourselves, so we have to constantly overcompensate, right? But in the process of doing all that, you start overloading yourself with just so much baggage that you really don't need, right? And the same way that you should prioritize your responsibilities in life, I feel is also the same way that you should prioritize how you're feeling, the company that you're surrounding yourself with, the influences that you're surrounding yourself with, right? So it's important to carry a light load. Um, Except for me whenever I do performances, because I'm always very extra and I like to pack everything. I'm very detail oriented, so whenever anything happens, I'm like, I got it, I'm prepared, right? And I guess it's important to be prepared, but how much is too much, you know? And like the same way how it's like you see those hoarders on TV, I feel like their external reality really reflects how messy of their mind is on the inside as well, right? So if you're like accumulating a lot of crap within, let's say, your house, right, you can also think of your body, your mind, your soul as your own home, right? Because this is the vehicle that's going to take you for the rest of your life, right? So if you start clogging up your mind with a lot of just unnecessary baggage, which would be like doubts, fears, just other people's responsibilities that aren't even yours that they should be responsible for, just like all of this noise in your head, it's just a lot harder for you to be able to discern what is right for you and what's not, because you can have goals, but you can have things that you want, but is it something that you necessarily need? And every time, let's say my friends are shopping, right? And they're like, oh my god, I love this toy, right? And they say that about like so many things, to be like, yeah, I need this, and then I always look at them and I question, okay, do you really need it though? Do you really need it, you know? Also, consumerism in general with America is just, it's just bad. It's just bad in general. So, yeah. Discerning what is best for you, what is healthy for you, and understanding what is healthy for you. Disengaging. Funny thing with disengaging is, like, sometimes you won't even, I think, people won't understand how bad of a situation they're in until after, like, it starts spiraling out and it gets, like, really worse, right? Sometimes we kind of have the mindset, because, you know, we like to naturally solve problems as human beings. We have this mindset where it's like, oh, well, you know, if I keep doing this, then eventually the problem will be fixed, right? No, not necessarily. Sometimes there are people out there that just can't be helped, right? Let's say that you're just a sane person who wants to have a logical, civil discussion about whatever disagreements that you have, right? Naturally, you know, you would want to gravitate people who can meet you at that same level of maturity, right? But the thing is that if you have someone who is sane, who's willing to have like a civil discussion with someone who is just not, and they're only thinking circularly, you know, and they just like feeding off the drama. They just like feeding off the attention that you give them, because it just fills them up. Like that's all that their life amounts up to, right? If you aren't self-aware enough to understand if that's healthy or not, then it's going to start throwing you into a loop. And I know that I've fell into that pattern, oh my god, so many times, because my blind spot would be like, okay, I'm just assuming that maybe they didn't understand it the first time when I talked to them. Maybe I should clarify myself even more. It doesn't really matter, because you could be as clear as you possibly could when it comes to people, but people like that you're paying attention to them one way or another, right? And because they like that you're paying attention to them one way or another, it feeds them, because they constantly like need something to be like filled up with them. You know, it gets harder to disengage. So people can read my mind by looking at my face. See, that's a good thing, right? Sometimes you can read my mind by looking at my face. Other times, there's just instances where I'm just a mystery, and you just don't know what's going on in my noggin. Yeah. So yeah, disengaging, and then also detaching from it. We like to be attached to things, right? Because it gives us a sense of identity. you know, and we like to connect with other people. But at what point do you start chipping away pieces at yourself, right? Of just, what is that? You start chipping away pieces of yourself and giving away pieces of yourself to other people who misuse or abuse what you give them, right? And at that point, you keep giving more and more and more and more, and then they're gonna find ways to distort or taint it because they don't feel whole within themselves, right? And because they don't feel whole within themselves, right? This is not to say that there are people in general are not whole. Everyone at a core level is whole. We're whole and we're still growing. It's as if, like, okay, you know, if you have a seed, right, and you're about to plant a flower, would you say that the seed is not whole? No, it's still whole. Like, you know, it has matter to it. It matters. You matter, right? You're still whole, but you're still growing, right? You're just at a different stage. Like, people are just at different stages, right? So when people think or assume as if they're unwhole because they're still growing and they're not able to, I guess, reach the same level as other people, they're gonna feel a sense of lack within themselves, right? And this triggers up their old abandonment wounds, or, you know, just wounds of like feeling neglect or ashamed for who they are. So again, this goes back to the whole concept of just people trying to overcompensate, you know? So I feel like cool people generally know what I'm thinking easily. Less cool people don't. Yeah, maybe I'm being biased. I don't think there's anything wrong with being biased, right? When you mean cool people, define what you mean by cool people, right? I feel like that's another discussion that's another topic that I definitely want to go towards, is like talking about like people's like soul journey and what they're placed here on this earth to do, you know, just what they're fated to be like in this lifetime. I feel like that's something that I definitely want to bring up next time whenever I have a discussion. But yeah, so again, just to wrap it all up, discern, disengage, and detach from people who siphon off your energy and suck the life out of you. And the next point that I'm getting to is that detaching is so incredibly difficult. It really is difficult because it's like over time, when we start attaching ourselves to things, you start, again, not only are you start building like an identity around those things, but you start building like just a strong bond to it. Like the cord just gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, right? And letting go is so difficult because we assume if we let go, then that means if we let go, then that means that we won't be able to attain happiness, or the same thing will happen to us. But actually it's the reverse. You know, when you don't let go and you keep holding on to things that aren't meant for you, you're just going to keep attracting the same scenarios over and over and over again. And this is just something that you just need to continually keep working at over and over and over again, and figuring like how much more you can let go, like how much further can you just stretch yourself out, you know? And I don't mean stretch yourself out as in like losing yourself, but see how far you can, like, you know, let go, you know, and just have faith that like something will be there to catch you, you know? I always have difficulty really knowing how to describe certain kinds of people. Maybe it's just like personal preference. Do you think it's just personal preference, right? Of like picking who's cool or who's not. I have some high standards when it comes to really cool people, right? Or people that I deem cool. But actually, I don't think my standards are too high. I think other people try too hard, right? And they're not themselves, right? So I guess my definition of just being around people who are cool is just people who are comfortable with themselves in their own skin. And I know that's really difficult because people have insecurities, because I definitely do have insecurities with myself, but I don't know, just people who are just naturally them, you know, just being yourself. And people have multiple definitions of what they mean by, like, you know, being yourself or whatnot. But I won't get too deep into that. So yeah. Anyway, the fourth step to warding off psychic attacks and protecting your aura is return the energy to sender, right? If it's not yours, don't keep it, all right? What do I mean by that, right? So there would be so many times, right? And I was unaware of this because I felt like I was not only responsible for my own shit, but I also felt like I was obligated and responsible for how other people are, right? It was hard for me to realize what's my stuff and what's other people's stuff, right? So when people start projecting their insecurities or just how their own wounding onto you, even when that's not your intention whatsoever, this also goes back to the point where I was like saying, like, you can be as clear and concise as you possibly could and people will still find ways to distort that, right? It's because they're living in such distortion that it's hard for them to make discernment of like what's wrong or what's right. And because they haven't healed from those traumas, right, it makes it harder for them to trust other people. So it's easy for them to just blame other people and project their own stuff onto other people. So whenever this happens, right, you don't have to verbally tell them to fuck off. I mean, there are instances where I do, alright, don't get me wrong, but you can just kind of sit there and meditate. And whenever you have those annoying, intrusive thoughts of the people who've done you wrong and who've hurt you, right, all you gotta do is just be like, no, fuck off, that ain't me, no, don't come near me, all right? And again, as you let go of all those things, you start becoming lighter. You start feeling lighter. Like cutting energetic cords. This is something you guys can like Google or look up how to cut energetic cords from people, right? Cutting energetic cords is extremely painful, right? Because again, over time, the more that we start attaching ourselves to people or other things, that cord starts strengthening more and more and more and more and more. And the more that we keep holding on to it, it gets harder and harder and harder to break. For example, people who are in abusive relationships, people on the outside will be like, why haven't you left sooner? Like, logically, like, deep down inside, the person probably already knows that, right? But because emotionally they are so attached to this person and they've built up this identity, this lifestyle with this person, they get really comfortable with knowing, because there's a sense of familiarity with it, right? Even if they're being abused and even if they're getting hurt, right? So being able to cut those cords and detach from those people is really hard because they're afraid of losing what they already know. And jumping into the unknown is also just as equally as scary to them, because they don't know what's going to be on the other side. They don't know if something worse is going to happen when they take that leap of faith, right? But I personally think, and like this is something that you guys can check the resources down below. There is this channel called Theremin Trees, and I really love the way that he explains abusive like relationships and whatnot. I think most often than not, it's better for you to leave the situation than it is to keep trying to hold on and trying your best to change or fix someone, right? Because I know that way back, I would say in middle school when I was in an abusive relationship, I had this like naive notion where it's like, if I kept trying over and over and over again, I would purposely go to their house like over and over and over again, even when I knew that going over there was toxic, because I felt like in one way or another, I felt like I could save them. But again, you can only save yourself, and you can't fix people. People would need to have the willingness to know how to fix themselves. If you've already exerted all of your options and you've tried your best, it's time to just let go of it, So yeah. Going back to the whole point of returning the energy to sender, right? People are going to try people are going to try reverse psychology in one way or another. Like, they're just going to try to guilt trip you and make you feel guilty as a way to extort, not only like extort energy out of you, but also as a way to just question your sanity, question your dignity as a human being. What's a good example that I can think of with this? All right. So one time my sister came over my house, all right? And I'm not saying this that I hate her. All right? I don't hate her at all. But there's just some things, you know, and it's normal, all right? We all have things about our families that we don't like. But one time my sister, right? I had a conversation with my mother. And because I am familiar with the way that she talks and the way that, like, people repeat themselves in patterns, right? And when you start recognizing those patterns, you start you know how far that rabbit hole is gonna go. Like, you know they're just gonna open up the same cans of worms over and over again. It's like, I already know where this is gonna go, right? So my mom was trying to, you know, repeat the same conversations, right? And I just told her, like, hey, shut up. Usually that's not something that you should tell your parents, right? Of course, you should be a good little bean, you know, never disobey your parents. I think that's bullshit. All right? You do what you want. You know, but, you know, I knew that she was doing things, and it's not that she was intentionally trying to hurt me, right? It's something that my mother has only grown up to learn because of her own subconscious programming back when, you know, the way that she was raised, right? I knew that she was trying to do things. I think she was trying to do things as a way to get, like, pity points or something like that, or turn the blame or something like that, right? So I just told her, like, hey, shut up, right? And my sister saw that I, like, said that to her, right? And my sister's like, oh, I don't like this hostile environment, I'm gonna leave, right? And usually, whenever people say things like that, it's like they're gonna want me to feel, like, so distraught and just be like, oh no, please don't go. like they want to see me in that state of mind because they want to know if I care or not, right? But I just told them, oh, okay, you can go, all right? And then I saw my sister get all flustered up. She's like, huh? And I'm just like saying, you said you wanted to leave, all right? You can grab your keys and go. Like, I'm not forcing you to stay. I'm not forcing you to stay here if you don't want to, right? You guys wanted to come here. I didn't invite you. So, you know, but yeah, people are going to try to use, like, reverse psychology on you as a way to get something out of you, all right? Because I think we've grown up with this mindset that we don't know how to ask for things directly. So in order for to get what we kind of need out of people, we have to use indirect methods in order to do so, right? Another example is when people would, you know, say, like, what is that? People are like, oh, you don't need me, right? When in actuality, when people say, like, oh, you don't need me, it's more so like, I need you, right? I think they don't have the courage to admit that they need someone, right? Because maybe somewhere back then in their childhood, when they were able to express themselves directly, it was always met with some sort of resistance or hostility, or just being like, oh no, you're not allowed to express your needs, all right? And this is a common pattern that I see with, like I'd say millennials and Gen Zers, is that, like, I guess boomers in general, because they were grown up thinking that, like, okay, you guys have it all easy. You guys have, like, material, like, items. That what more do you need, right? They haven't. Because they've suffered through, like, many world wars and all that. They're still they still hold, I guess, emotional baggage from those traumatic experiences, meaning narcissistic personalities, narcissistic tendencies, like manipulative tactics, gaslighting other people in order for them to get their needs. Does that make sense? Right? That's a big mood. Yeah. Yeah. What you have to do whenever someone, does reverse psychology on you is don't react right away. You pause. But you pause before you start reacting to those kinds of people, right? And you flip the script on them, right? If they say something at face value, right, as in like, oh, I'm just gonna go leave, right? You just flip the script on them, just take it at face value, what they said, and be like, okay, if you want to leave, the door's right there. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, right? So, and then watch how flabbergasted their expression starts to be when you start calling them out on their behavior. I don't know. I just find it fascinating that it's like the way that we talk to each other is like so backwards. Like we're so afraid to, just be ourselves, right? So yeah, flip the script, and then finally, the last point is surrender and reclaim your sovereignty. All right? Understand that you are worthy of respect, love, understanding, compassion, all of the above. You are a human being, right? And you're put on this earth, you're put on this planet to experience unconditional love, all right? Yes, there are times where, like, life itself is going to be painful, right? But it's through that pain that we're able to learn lessons. And it's tough because it's like most of us, like, we've grown all of our life thinking that we're unworthy, right? That all our worth ever amounts to is just like, if we just try hard enough, if we just do da da da, instead of just like naturally just being the way that we are, then then we won't be able to receive love, yeah, though it's very hard to meet people that you can be yourself with. And yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to find people that you can be yourself with, because other people themselves, they don't know themselves. And because they don't know themselves, they can't be themselves around you. So they think, oh, if I just act like this around these people, right? Then I'll be able to get the love and attention that I want, right? But then they start realizing that they're surrounding themselves with people that deep down, like, don't really care about them. They don't care about them in the ways that they thought they would, It's really all surface level, and I think we're all scared to go deeper than that. And because we're scared to go deeper than that, we start pointing the finger at those who are a lot more sensitive and just saying like, oh, you're too much. I can't handle you. You're too much. You're too intense for me, right? It's not that they're too intense. It's like naturally, like we have always been at that stage, we were always been at that state of mind. Like ever since we were born as kids, like naturally we already know. It's just over time, as we start growing up in this matrix-like society, the conditioning, the layers just start, like, the walls, I would say, just start thickening more and more and more and more and more. And we just think, like, well, if I just wear this mask, people will only like me. But they won't like you. They will only like the mask that you put on. And how long would it take, for you to constantly just keep wearing this mask all the time until you eventually start breaking, and then you start realizing the people around you just, unfortunately, it's such a sad realization to come to, but the people around you just they're not there for themselves, so therefore they can't be there for you in the way that you so deserve to be. Does that make sense? So yeah. And what I mean by surrender and reclaim your sovereignty is, like, once you start getting a better understanding of yourself, of not only yourself, but how other people are and how their energy is, right? You should surrender to the process of, like, you knowing, and forgive yourself, because a lot of people start feeling bad when they look back at those experiences and they're like, I feel so much remorse and regret. And it's okay to feel remorse and regret. And And it's also understandable if it's hard for you to forgive, right? But it's important to forgive yourself first before you start forgiving other people. So just surrendering to how things naturally unfold and letting yourself heal over time is really important. I know that people say that like time heals all wounds. I don't necessarily think that time heals all wounds. I think it's just like how you allocate that time over time will heal, if that makes sense, right? Because it's like you could like have time and you could be wasting that time filling it with like unnecessary baggage and garbage in your life over and over and over again. Like some people, I guess, they have the sense where letting go is just forgetting about the trauma that other people inflicted on them, or moving on is like, you know, I'm just going to just fake being happy because I don't want to feel the uncomfortable negative emotions that are associated with this experience, or I'm moving on to another relationship because I was just fresh out of another one and I'm just gonna rebound myself into another one. That's not actually moving on and letting go. That's like, because the way that you are, you're gonna start attracting the same people in the same scenarios over and over and over again. And not only that, you're continuously reenacting that trauma if you don't stop and stay with yourself and be alone with yourself and your company and start reanalyzing and reprioritizing what is actually helpful and healthy in your life, right? Some people never begin the healing process to begin with and hold on to it. Yeah. And this is what keeps so many people in addictive patterns, right? Like, you can even say like the medical system in general, they keep people stuck in addictive patterns. I know before, like, this is something that I talked about in my other stream, but I know before that even while I was on medication, even when I went to multiple therapists, multiple psychologists, I still felt like, why is this not helping me? Why am I not healing? Why am I going through the same motions that I've been through over and over and over again? This doesn't compute with me. I can't make sense of it, right? So understanding how to break those patterns, like sometimes there are just instances where you're gonna have to figure things out by yourself and think outside of the box. Come up with creative solutions for yourself, because sometimes you can say that you have a degree, but you really won't know. You really won't know. And they can say that they're there to help you, but I don't know. And that's what I mean by reclaiming your sovereignty, because it's like you have your own individuality. Like, you have your own purpose here for a reason. And it's okay to ask for outside support, but if that outside support does not know themselves truly, then they're just going to keep saying like, oh yeah, I understand, I'm here for advice, da da da, and they're just going to keep throwing you in directions that, you know, you take their advice and then you end up back in the same place. It's kind of like let's say, for example, what is that? You know the movie The Matrix, where Neo was gonna get in the car, right? And Trinity, what is that? Trinity, and then there. Am I live? Am I live? My internet just disconnected on me. I hope I'm live. Guys, type in the chat if I'm live or not. That's strange. I froze up for a while. Yeah, my internet just kind of put on me. Am I back? Am I back on here though? Am I back on here? I hope so. You're live now. Okay, thank God. But yeah. I'm starving. I need to make food because I just woke up. I'll be back. Yeah, no problem. I'm actually almost done. Because I already went over everything that I needed to go over. Live again? I hope I'm back live again. Hello? Oh my God. I don't know why the live stream just keeps cutting out on me. Geez, that's really irritating. Let me go back to your comment. Quote, you don't need me, end quote. Translates to, I don't want to help. I don't want to help you, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, it's so annoying. It's so bad. Like, I really hate hearing that. Like, I just feel like my heart, like, whenever people, like, use reverse psychology on me or, like, do things like that to me, it really makes my heart sink, because I'm just like, you know, fine. If you don't want me around, I'm not going to force myself to be around you, you know? But I know that it's a way for them to gain control over you, right? They want control over you. It's not love. Like, they just want control. And it's painful, because it's like, you do want to love people and you do want to care about people and you want to trust people. But when they start acting like that, it's really painful, you know? Because I don't know, I just hate it. I just hate it. And it doesn't build any type of real connection whatsoever, you know? You're just gonna keep going back and having the same types of arguments, the same kinds of scenarios over and over again. So, but yeah. Yeah, and finally, to wrap up everything that I talked about as far as, you know, the topic at hand, right? There are times where even if I'm meditating or I'm laying in my bed, like, I can actually feel, like, I'll actually know if people are talking shit about me. Like, I just be laying there, and I just know. Like, people think, I think that's a funny thing. It's like, people think that their thoughts are private. Your thoughts aren't necessarily private, alright? If you're dealing with someone who's woke, right? And again, this is not me saying that I'm better than other people, but people who are more so enlightened, they can read your energy and they can read your thoughts, because your energy doesn't lie, alright? You don't have to be physically connected to someone to know what's going on in their mind, and it almost feels invasive, trust me, because then you won't be able to think, like, is this my thoughts or is this their thoughts? But sometimes your thoughts are probably not even your own. They could be, like, someone else's. They're most likely someone else's. And that's what I mean by you have to return to sender. Just return to sender. Be like, hey, God, whoever thoughts these are, they're not mine. Can you just, like, please take them and bring it back to the person who implanted these thoughts? Just give it back to source. All right, just take it, give it back to source. All right. It's still something that I still need to discern and understand. As far as, like, distinguishing, like, what energy is mine and what energy is theirs. All right. Yeah. So, does anyone have any further questions about anything that I talked about before I end this live stream? I know that we went over a lot, but if you need any type of further clarification, please let me know. And again, also, I'd love to go over just other topics in general. So if you guys have any suggestions of what topics that you'd like for me to talk about next time, please let me know in the chat as well. I'd love to discuss them. Yeah. Say hi to my friend. I forgot. Its name was Feely. Say hi to Feely. I still love playing with this. Hey. Ugh. I hate those, like, YouTube videos with, like, those Orby challenges or what have you. Be like, let's see how much Orbeez we can fill into this pool, into this bathtub. And I'm like, oh, that's so bad for the environment, man. The only thing that I like about Orbeez is that it's like this. I feel like this is a proper use of Orbeez, alright? Because it's self-contained. It's self-contained, all in one, alright? You don't need too much. You just... What a disgusting sound. what a disgusting gushy sound. Alright, well, I guess if people don't have any other further questions, I guess this ends the live stream. Thank you so much for taking the time to come join me tonight. Maybe I'll do another live stream next week. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. I hope everyone has a happy Valentine's Day, and just remember that you don't need another person to enjoy Valentine's Day. You can still spend Valentine's Day by yourself and still enjoy the holiday if you want. If you want to enjoy the holiday. Usually, I'm the type of person where I don't really follow that much holiday traditions. It's just like, oh, this happened. Oh, okay. You know, even though I'd like to, I try to get into the spirit. It's not really my thing to, I guess, get in the spirit. The only time that I really get into the spirit is my birthday. Like, that's the only holiday that I really, be ecstatic about. It's because, like, it's my birthday. All right, this is the day that I was born. It's my favorite day out of the whole entire year because it's my birthday. Yeah. All right, then. Take care and hope you have a good night. See you later. Bye-bye.